trucking. We're gonna do what they say can't be done. You do a left out of plan, come on home and do a side move. Those men start left one time you run. Turn the partner by the right hand, then go left out of man. Swing your own in front of me.
All right, here we go. Another Square Dance Callers Talking. Tonight I'm in Richardson, Texas. I've got David Toms tonight. How are you, sir?
Doing great. How you doing?
Very good, David. It's finally good to talk to you again. Since you are in Texas, we don't run into each other except if we are at a convention or a school or something like that, or a cruise. We had a good time on that. But so awesome having you on here. I just spent a little time with you at the last school we did at the Pride RV. So we'll talk about some of that too. But first of all, it's about you. You said you're in Richardson, Texas. Where is that?
Yeah, it's just north of Dallas.
Okay.
You're familiar with the area. About an hour away from Fort Worth.
Okay. Now, were you born and raised there, or where'd you come from?
No, actually, I was born in Taiwan, of all places. I was an Air Force brat, and I guess I turned probably 2 or 3 when we were over there, and came back to the States, and we traveled all over the place. I remember Maine, all over the place. Anyway, my parents were from Pennsylvania and Maryland, so that's where they settled after everything was said and done. So I went to elementary school and a little bit of middle school in Maryland, and then my parents moved to West Virginia, right across the Potomac River. So we moved over there, and I graduated high school from West by God, Virginia, of all places. Now, it was a great place to grow up. I still have a lot of friends that live there. I don't think I'd want to move back, but at the same time, it was a good place to be.
So when did you land in Texas?
Let's see. I joined the Army in about '88, and eventually, I think '97 or so, we moved to Texas. Bought a house in Killeen, right outside of Fort Hood at the time. I think they've changed the name since then, but down near Austin. And we spent, let's see, we had that house from '97 till about 2004. And we bought this house in Richardson at that point.
So how long were you in the Army?
10 years active duty.
10 years, very nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it was all over the place. Was stationed in Germany, Georgia, of all near, probably not too far from you. It was Augusta.
Augusta? Okay.
Yeah. Where do you live?
I'm in Atlanta. So
Okay.
it's a pretty straight route. You go out I-20 until you I-20 east till you hit Augusta.
Yeah.
So I'm familiar with it for sure, right on the South Carolina border.
Right. Yeah, and then Hawaii for 3 years in Hawaii, and then they
Very
put
nice.
us in Texas right after that, which Hawaii is a great place to be for about a year.
You know,
Ready to move.
we a few years back, about 3 years ago now, we took a cruise and we flew out to Hawaii, took the Norwegian cruise, the 7 days around the islands and all that. Loved Hawaii. I tell you, I grew up in Georgia, and I grew up with just your regular standard education and everything else. I had no idea Hawaii was so far away. I mean, I knew it's out there,
Yeah.
but the fact that we flew from Atlanta to LA, that's about a 4.5 hour flight. And I know what that distance looks like because I've seen it, I've traveled it. But when they said when we flew from LA to Hawaii, it's like 5.5, 6 hours. I'm like, are you kidding? We're further from Hawaii than we are from Georgia in LA. That is amazing how far away it is. So,
It is.
but beautiful place. I've never seen anything like a different planet. It looks completely different. It's just
It really
amazing
is.
there.
Yep, it is very beautiful. But eventually you realize you're on an island.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can only drive about 20 miles either way. And then you just kind of want to take a long drive at some point. At least we did. People that live there obviously don't feel that way, but we're accustomed to living in the States.
At some point we want to go back, but yeah, it was a great week and a half.
It is.
Been out
It is
there.
great.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah. We've been back a couple times since, so we didn't hate it.
Very nice. So you're in Richardson, Texas. Where did the square dancing start for you?
2015, we started taking lessons. Jan told me maybe a couple months before the lessons started that one of her coworkers was a square dancer and that they had invited us to lessons, and we decided to just go. I remember doing it in elementary school. It was the last time I remember doing it, and I was like, you mean the dancing that we did in elementary?" And she was like, "Yeah." So I said, "Well, I'll do it." We were empty nesters relatively soon. We had just recently become empty nesters, I guess.
Okay.
So we wanted to do it, and I never thought we'd stick with it after I thought we'd go to the one free lesson and that'd be it. But nope, stuck to it.
So 2015.
Hmm.
So you stuck with it. You went through the lessons and all that. Do you know who was the caller? Who taught you to dance?
Mike Bramlett.
No kidding. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice. So now the other direction we're going to go is that we talk about it. You're a square dance caller. How long after lessons did you decide you wanted to try and call?
I never decided I wanted to call. What I did was I asked Mike to do a singing call that he does very well. And he's like, "Well, why don't you do it with me?" And I said, "Well, absolutely not. I like the way you do it. So I kind of want to dance it." And the way it dances is really nice too. I don't even remember which one it was at the moment, but I remember that it was fun to dance to. So the last thing I wanted to do was be calling while I'm, trying to dance. So anyway, that was my introduction because he's like, "Well, what would you like to do?" I said, "Well, just do one that you know I know the words to." And he picked one, and it went over pretty well. I was surprised how well everybody responded to it. So I just decided to pick it up. I did a few singing calls here and there, and that was about it for a little while.
So, and a lot of people start out with the singing calls and all that, and some spend more time than others doing that. When did you start to realize you wanted to try and start doing choreography? And anybody help you with that?
Well, they try to help you, and I realize there's a lot of people can do and not necessarily be able to teach you how to do it as well. So I figured I'd go to a color school. I think my first new color school was 2019. Jerry Junk, Tom Miller, Paul Hensey, and I think they called it Heart of America or something along that line. It was in Topeka, Kansas when Color Lab was up there. And I think you've done interviews with a couple of the callers that I went to school with. Victoria Bundy
Yeah. Okay.
is there.
Yep.
Let's see. Keith Clicks also was there. I don't know if you've done an interview with
I
him
have
yet.
not talked to him yet. I've spent some time with him at conventions and all that, but I haven't had a chance to get him on here yet. At some point, I'll get
And we've become real close friends. So
him.
all of us. So
So, the caller school kind of got you going in the direction of choreography and all that. Have you been to some other caller schools or anything like that?
yeah, went to obviously GSI. You and I have been to a couple together, I believe.
Yes, I have.
I think I missed this year. I started a new job a couple years ago. I just didn't have the time to take it, and I wanted to go to the color school at Pride RV Resort this year. So that kind of got in the way of doing GSI again. So we did that, and let's see, other color schools other than GSI. I don't believe I did do a singing call school with Wade Driver.
Well, Wade Drive. Okay. Okay.
Jan did that with me. She did a singing call too.
And
My
Janet
wife is Jan Toms.
is a cuer,
She's
right?
a cuer, yeah, and she wanted to be able to do a singing call, so she did one as well, and it turned out really good. It's called Smile.
Smile. Now, was she cueing before y'all started dancing also, or no?
No, she started cueing before I started calling, about a year or two before I started calling.
man, some of those names early on with Mike teaching you to dance and kind of having a hand in you starting calling. And then, of course, Jerry Junk at his caller school and everything else. Do you, who all do you count as just like your mentors that have, if you had to pick up the phone and call somebody, if you were concerned about something with your calling, who would you talk to?
Well, I can call Mike anytime I want to. We text every once in a while. You know, I'll send him some choreography and he'll set me right in my ways. Or I'm sure I could call or send Tony Oxendine a text message now too, given that we just did Pride RV Resort and Jack as well.
Yeah.
And but Jerry Junk definitely was a strong influence. Just in, I guess, dancer success, I think, is something that he really pushed towards, and I like that about him.
Yeah, I was going to ask you some of your main takeaways from some of the mentors and all that. So the dancer success.
Yeah, I think definitely from Jerry's school, dancer success, preparedness, trying to be as prepared as you possibly can before a dance. From Mike Bramlett, his choreography is exceptionally creative. And I think that goes back to one of the reasons I wanted to start doing choreography is because I really enjoyed, different choreography, non-standard choreography. I think that became one of the hardest things for me to learn is standard choreography. There's Color Lab has that standard choreography guide or something along those lines that it'll basically tell you what is potentially a good call to call after or what call might have been a good call before this call to keep flow and handedness and things like that. But they don't teach you a set of choreographic tricks. I think not tricks so much as standard choreographic modules that every dancer can do. I think that's something that's probably missing in a lot of new caller curriculum. They should really kind of give you maybe here's 100 modules that any dancers can do. Maybe pull them from singing call modules or something like that. But you don't even realize that until you start to call and you call something that seems pretty fundamental to you. And you're probably the same way. I think a lot of callers are the same way. They like to dance choreography that's interesting, and they probably all stretched their legs a little bit and went too far.
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely did. I was way off base with what I thought dancers could do and what I can get them to do. So.
Yeah, and you can see it when you go to conventions or wherever you have the callers that have been doing it for 40 years, 50 years, people rush to the floor when they come out because of the pattern. There's some really good, fantastic singers in the square dance world. Absolutely there are. But when you get somebody who can do choreography, there's some people can't compare to that.
Yeah.
You can always find good voices, but choreography that's not standard, the way they can move people around, you can really see it. You can tell the difference just like that if you're a dancer of what's going on up on stage. So,
yep, that's a definite something that I really aspire to be better at delivery and being able to get dancers to achieve that kind of choreography like some of the greats can. I mean, Jerry Story was awesome at it. Tony's great at it. A lot of callers are really good at it, but I don't. Every time I achieve one of those, I surprise myself, and I'm like, "Hey, that worked! I'm going to put that in my hip pocket, and I'm keeping it." Right. Because I'll tell you, when one works, you just you surprise yourself sometimes, and you gotta practice it with a group you trust, and they trust you, and they actually. I think they have to believe you're capable of doing what you're calling. So you gotta
confidence. Absolutely. How you deliver the calls will determine if the mid-level dancer can actually complete it. And they can be a strong dancer. If you don't deliver it with confidence and they don't trust what you're doing, you're going to have people breaking down, even if it was the correct call. So it is the delivery. That's good stuff there, David. Now, do you have your own club, or how often do you call?
I probably call on average once a week a full dance.
Okay.
Three out of four of those, no, probably half of those are guest tips.
Okay.
So
now when you're doing
guest tips, guest caller. I'm a guest caller.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
When you're doing a whole dance, what's your process going into the dance? What do you like to do to prepare yourself for it?
These days I generally know who I'm calling for the club, and I know their general ability. And I think, having done it for a few years, you get the ability to adjust choreography a little bit better than you probably did even last year. I think so I plan according to what I anticipate, and I think I always have something a little bit harder in my back pocket to do, but I try to come in where I think the average is and be prepared to scale it back a little bit.
Yeah.
That's where I try to do. And I practice all my singing calls almost every dance, just because, I think I probably have 5 or 6 absolutely memorized where I can do them anytime I want. But the rest of them, I'm still reading lyrics, or I want it there as a crutch more than anything. Because
agreed,
I really do just keep it as a crutch. Even the ones I really know, sometimes it's just you want to be absolutely prepared. You just don't want to, leave them unsatisfied, because a lot of the dancers, they love to sing along with you.
Sure.
So
when I was with the band at the last convention in Wisconsin, we did "Paint Me a Birmingham," which is a Tracy Lawrence song that I've done 20 times over the years, and I know it. I know the actual song. I know the real song. I know the square dance version. But even when I went up for the band, I had a little piece of paper. And if you watch the video, if you go back and you find the video on YouTube of me with the band, I put a piece of paper, and all it was the opening. I just had to see those first 2 lines of lyrics that I know. But when I looked in, I was like, and so I glanced right there, and of course but it is a crutch, even when I'm calling from my club doing singing calls, well, of course, Square View, it kicks right over to lyrics. But I will. It can be a song I've done 10 times over the past year at different places. I don't do it all at my club, obviously, but I still glance over just to see what the break is and be like, oh, okay, because I used to singing calls all day long when I was at work. When I was riding around in a police car, I would just have it playing over my Bluetooth. And I did nothing but singing calls. I don't do that so much now. Now I listen to people's choreography. And things like that. But I'm always doing some kind of choreography or singing call throughout the day, depending on what it is. But yeah, it is a crutch. It's a good one to have, because the last thing even from my club, the last thing I want to do is forget a lyric of a song that I haven't done in 3 months. Although they could care less, they get a laugh out of it when they hear me humming. I'm like, uh-oh, I don't know. Or I'll just sing in there. I don't know the words right here. Wow. And, but you can't do that every song. So that's
sing that to the sing. I don't know the words to the melody.
Yeah, if you can fit it, and they'll come up and they'll be like, I don't think that's the lyrics. I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure it is. So
that's exactly how I heard it last time.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Because and we talked about this. Tony brought it up. I think in the last school, just for a minute, we were talking. If you do a lot of traveling and you get around to different places, you don't see the same people. You can get into a groove where you're just running the same 6 or 7 singing calls, and the same type of choreography, because it's new to them when you go somewhere else, So that's a lot of fun. But that's the one thing I learned. I finally, after 10 years, getting my own club, and I call every other week for them. personally, I'm not bringing the same songs. I have plenty of singing calls at this point, and but it's always something different. And I try at least one tip. I will call something that they have absolutely never heard before. But
Yeah.
it pushes me because I work on it for 45 minutes to an hour a day before just to see if it works with checkers, with terminations, whatever.
Hmm.
It makes me better when it's all. I know, all the schools I went to. Um, the callers that have been doing this their whole life, they will tell you, man, if you want to get better, you got to have a club. You got to teach. You got to. Now,
Yeah.
speaking of that, before I get too far off on my story, you said you were have you taught some classes too?
Yeah, probably taught eh, maybe
Okay,
eight classes, mainstream classes beginning to end. I teach for two different clubs.
nice.
So, in fact, one of the clubs, Charlie Robertson is the primary caller there. So I go to, and Jan's the cure for that same club as well. So I go to that, I go to every one of their dances, and I call a lot of dances for them as well when Charlie's out of town. Charlie lives about 2 hours away. So if there's a traffic jam on I-35, there's been times he's had to call me and say, hey, I just can't make it. And I'm pretty much always available. If Jan's queuing, I'm there as well.
That's another
So,
awesome dude to have on your phone to
sure.
talk
Oh,
to about stuff.
absolutely. Wonderful
That is
caller
awesome.
and a great friend too. We've really grown to be great friends as well over time. And yeah, he's been a good influence for choreography as well, because we'll come home afterwards. Occasionally they stay with us and we'll get talking choreography, and then Christy and Jan will be in bed, and Charlie and I'll still be talking choreography.
That's
Although
awesome.
he calls it a much higher level. He calls advanced and challenge.
Mhm.
Um, and I we dance advanced. We've just really learned advanced recently. So I'm by no means a choreographer there, but I do think about it, and I try to, call a tip here and there just to
Wow, very nice. Okay.
practice. Yeah.
Yeah, Charlie's, and we were talking before we started recording, and I said that a reason I got into this podcast was for the callers to tell their stories and all that, because I have a lot of friends that don't travel for work, family, whatever reason. And so I would tell them these stories, and it's things like that, like Charlie Robertson. I knew Tony because he's out of North Carolina, and so I'd run into him. He does a dance in Georgia every so often, so I've known Tony for a few years, and with caller schools. But the Ted Lazats of the world, Charlie Robertson, those guys, Jack Platties. I'm never going to run across them. Just on a weekend. Hey, look who's coming to town, except for rarely if they just happen to be passing through. Going to these conventions, that's how I met Charlie Robertson, was at a national convention, probably at some after party where we're hanging out. And just an awesome dude.
Yeah.
Same with, Jack, Ted, all those guys. And of course, I count them all as my mentors now because, every time I'm around them, I'm like, hey, what do you think of this? And we kind of start talking that, but all awesome guys. But that's why you have to get out. And I know some people just can't do it sometimes, but you need to get to a convention, whether it be state or national, or a caller lab.
Yeah.
Caller lab is the best. I'll just put that out. I'm wearing my caller lab hat, but I'm
Yeah.
a caller lab guy. So
We did our first caller lab this year, so that was a lot of fun.
now, are you going to be in South Carolina next year?
We plan on it.
Okay, awesome. Upside 3 hours for me. I get to drive to that one.
Yeah.
So because I've flown to the last few, I flew to the one in Texas this past go, and but yeah, it. If I'll miss all the other stuff, but I'm going to Caller Lab. I love everything about Caller Lab. The after parties, the dances, and getting to see people that I don't normally get to see.
Yeah.
So definitely got to come to South Carolina. Um, so now with the calling, and you've been to conventions and everything else, that's where we've run into each other a few times in the cruise. Are there any venues or any place you've called that you've really liked, or someplace that you've heard about and you want to go to?
Well, I think uh, that's a two-part question. So I guess I'll start with the ones I've really enjoyed.
Yeah,
The
go ahead.
Texas State Festival is always great. It's a large it's a large dance. We tend to have, I think, somewhere between 30 and 50 squares, depending on where it's held and what happens there. That's on the dance floor. I don't know how many actual people show up, but I think it's probably in the range of 400 to 600 on a regular festival. So we really enjoyed that. We used to enjoy, let's see, Waco is where Wade Driver used to do Winterfest. That was always we missed that as a dance, but never called in that one. But we really enjoy that. I'm just thinking of venues that we really like. I think place I would like to call is Tennessee if I ever get the time off to go over there. It looks like a wonderful event. And the venue looks really good too.
It is. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Did you go this year?
I did not go this year. I was going to say, and I've been to about 6 state conventions: Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama. I love Alabama. I'm going this weekend, as a matter of fact. But Tennessee is, first of all, have you been to Gatlinburg? You've been to Gatlinburg before, I'm guessing. It's right. It's in downtown Gatlinburg. So venue-wise, it's really nice. The downside to Gatlinburg is it's always crowded now with stuff going on. But if you can get past the crowd of non-square dance stuff, Gatlinburg's a great place. And the convention is just phenomenal. They've got a great live band hall that they always put together. I haven't got a chance to call it the live band yet, but I've called some other halls. But yeah, you definitely need to go to that. It's as far as I'm concerned, that's number one in all the states I've been to, and I won't say all the states, that way I don't leave anybody out. Alabama's definitely right there, 1-2 with Tennessee. And of course, Georgia's special to me just because I'm in Georgia and I get to go there and see a bunch of people from Georgia that don't travel that I get to see. So, but yeah, definitely need to go to Tennessee at some point, man, and do it early. Make the plans early because it's tough to get on that call and schedule unless you let them know you're coming. So yeah, that's tough. But yeah, something you definitely need.
Couple places I wish were still open for square dancing. Fun Valley. Have you ever been to Fun Valley?
Here's Fun Valley.
What's that?
Where is Fun Valley?
Oh, it's in Colorado. It's in South Fork, Colorado, or right near South Fork, Colorado. It's kind of south central, near Pagosa Springs, if you know that region. And it's but they don't have square dancing anymore. It used to be that whole park was built on square dancing, believe it or not. And the new owners have basically put it by the wayside. The square dance hall is still there from what I understand. In fact, there's a lot of club banners that are still up.
Wow.
The square dance hall. They still call it the square dance hall. And then I've seen from back in the day, I've seen pictures of a place called Asilomar in California. Have you ever seen pictures of that?
No. Asilomar?
It's called Asilomar. I guess all the national callers called there at some point. I just like to dance there, even if it was still available. But I don't think it's a venue for square dancing at all anymore. So that's another lost opportunity. I think we've missed a lot. We missed the big wave, Charlie.
We did. I was right on the back end of it. With dancing, I kind of had a little piece of it with when I started dancing. So we've been dancing for 30 years. Yeah, the calling part of it, I just get to hear the stories about, 200 squares on the floor. I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't even know where to start with something like that. If I see 10, I'm like, oh my God, look at all these people.
Wouldn't you be intimidated too, though, these days? I mean, 200 squares, you'd be like, man, I better not mess up.
Yep. Yeah, I couldn't imagine doing a dance like that when the national convention was in Georgia, gosh, 5 years ago, I think now. It's been a few years. We did, there's a bridge that goes over one of our interstates. It's a footbridge. It's a walking bridge. And they had advertised it. And so the first day of the convention, I went out there with Sean Butler and Justin Russell and Hunter Keller came out, the 4 of us. We had, I think Ray Owens videoed some of it. and he got a rough count. We had almost 800 dancers out there on the bridge. Now, I was standing on a concrete stand in the middle of all that. All we were doing was singing calls. I mean, because there's no timing. You can't even try and call the people like that when you're over an interstate with the noise and all. So we're just doing singing calls, but it was awesome with that many people. But yeah, I couldn't imagine doing a dance in a hall with 150, 200 people. That's insanity to me.
Yeah.
But I talked to Tony and all those guys that have been doing it for so long, and they were like, it's nothing to have 100 squares on the floor some places. That's just amazing.
Apparently they still have big dances like that in Japan and Europe.
I was going to ask you now, with your military and the traveling you did with the military, is there anywhere you'd like to call overseas that you can think of?
I think I'd like to call it pretty much any of the places where they dance. Sweden, Germany, Japan. I'm sure that would be great. I don't think I would do it at this moment. Having heard the stories about callers using filler words and all of the things where you really have to just be very precise with your delivery and be able to control your desire to add words in there. I probably don't have that ability right now, being honest with myself. So I think eventually I would love to do it, but I'll wait till I'm
the thought of it, and I've talked to some of these guys, the Charlie Robertsons, Jet Roberts, all these guys who travel and go overseas all the time, and I've heard those stories, and I couldn't do it, not right now, nope. I really, with some of the friends that I've made on the podcast for the most part, and Philip Cum in Germany, and some of the other guys over there, I would love to go to Germany at some point and call for sure. I mean, I'd like to go anywhere overseas, don't get me wrong, but Germany would be awesome, just because of the people I've met over there. Japan, obviously, because everybody talks about Japan. I'd like to at some point just have that as a notch on my belt. Hey, I went to Japan and I called. Yeah. If they said, hey, do you want to go in October? I'd be like, absolutely not. I'm not ready for anything like that.
Not this time.
No.
One place I didn't mention, but I would love to, and I didn't realize how big square dancing was over there till recently, but Taiwan. And
is that right?
Having been born there, I would absolutely love to call over there. That would be a very interesting experience, I think.
I've never heard of anybody going to Taiwan. I mean, I'm sure they have, but they just don't bring it up. But yeah.
Yep. I think somebody told me recently, it was a local caller, and I don't remember who it was, but they called in Taiwan and Japan on a trip. So I've seen Mike from LA, trying to remember a caller's name.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Anyway, he was over there one time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Now, with the calling you do and the people you've worked with, and I certainly don't want to catch you off guard. If you don't have one, let me know. Do you have a favorite get out? Or before we do that, I'll give you a second to think about it. What's your favorite level to call, since you dance up to advanced, but mainstream plus and some advanced? What do you like to call?
I think mainstream is probably my favorite, when I can get a solid group of mainstream dancers that, I like SSD, but I like to do the mainstream calls as well.
Do you have a favorite call out of all that?
Favorite call? Dixie Style's probably my favorite call, just because it's the least used out of the entire mainstream. Well, that's not true. I think probably Alaman Dar is probably the least used, or so one of those is probably the least, but the one that is the most danceable, least used, is probably Dixie Style. But no, I don't have a favorite get out. I really don't. I don't. Yeah.
I rarely, just because I didn't really know it that well to call. I can dance it, but all the Dars, the Alaman Dars, that type of stuff. But I just taught it to my club. We've got a class going through right now, and I just taught it last Thursday, which I took about 2 days of doing nothing but stuff on Caller Labs website with the analyzing a call and all that. So I knew it pretty well at that point, and I had so much fun teaching it. And I thought, I should really do more of these because yeah, you rarely hear it. If you have a club, you can certainly do it. But the thing that's concerning is if you walk into a state convention and you don't know the floor and you drop something like that, which people should be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
But you might break down half a floor if you throw something like that in because, like you said, you don't hear it some places when you go.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think you're right.
Dixie style. That's nice. Yeah. Now, with the traveling you did also in the military, any stories or anything that people wouldn't know about you that you want to tell us?
About the
You did in the
military.
Army. How about that?
I don't know. Put me on the spot right now. Can't think of any right off the top of my
Okay.
head.
That's fine. And like everybody who's been on this podcast knows, I really don't give out any questions or anything like that immediately. So everything's off the cuff, so no worries on that. How about this? What's your favorite kind of foods
Favorite kind of foods.
or favorite food?
I don't know. It changes so often. I think I like Texas brisket, to be honest with you. It's great. Foreign food, probably Italian, authentic Italian, like Tuscan. They make a great steak, man. One of the best.
I've got a funny story about steaks in Texas, but I won't talk about that here because
No.
it'll upset some people involved with it. But yeah, I'm a huge steak guy and brisket and all that. But living in Texas where you are, do you have any favorite restaurants or anything?
Restaurant? No, probably not. We pretty much make all our own food
Nice.
at home. Try to as much as we can anyway. I guess, we do have a lot of Chinese restaurants that I can't make a lot of that food easily. So if we're going to go out to eat, it's probably Chinese. And I can't remember the names of them, to be honest with you.
When you said you enjoyed Hawaii for about a year, what's your favorite place that's not home?
That's not
where you live right now. If you could be anywhere else, where would it be?
Couple different places. It would be a balance between central Montana, Kalispell area,
okay.
Or west. I guess that's western Montana, and Anchorage, Alaska is really nice. That whole area of the Kenai Peninsula, from anywhere from Anchorage to the Kenai Peninsula, is really beautiful.
Another place at some point we hope to go, my wife and I. Well, probably a cruise more than likely.
My wife just went without me this summer because, again, I didn't have the time off to take, but she just went to Alaska. In fact, she went to Fairbanks and took several pictures of the Square Dance Hall. They have a dedicated Square Dance Hall. It's quite a nice facility up there. That's another place I'd probably like to call.
Yep, Fairbanks
at some point. Yeah.
So, if you're not listening to first, let's get into what's your favorite Square Dance singing call right now? Now, give me three. I'm sure nobody can nail it down to one. What's some of your favorite ones?
One that I really enjoy performing is Get Rhythm. That's just a fun singing call. You almost have to have a group of people, but it's okay as an individual call as well. Let's see, Morning Sky. I really like that one a lot. And a couple that I intend to produce. One is called, let's see, Middle of America. I actually have one put together. It's kind of a karaoke cut. And Charlie Robertson, I did it actually because I heard it on the radio. I was like, that would be perfect for Charlie's voice. and he's actually performed it. He performed it at the Tennessee State Festival. So, and it's a really good singing call. Let's see. I don't know. Other than that, there's probably a bunch of other ones that I'd love as well, but I can't think of them right off the top of my head. Those classics though, like Get Rhythm and Morning Sky, they really strike a chord with me. I don't know. They're perfect for a square dance. I don't. There's something about them.
You know, I after the, and a quick story. When we were at the convention this past year at the Nationals, is the first time I had the opportunity to do an after party, and we were the last group. And when I was sitting out there, they said, you know, I said, "What are we going to do?" And they said, "Do you know Morning Sky?" And I said, "No." And they were like, "Pull it up on your phone and listen to it." And so I pulled it up on my phone and listened to it. And I had Tim Teal with me, and from Texas. And I'm standing next to him, and I was like, "Tim, I've never done this song before." And he's like, "He said, you'll be all right, Charlie. Just follow me." And I was like, "Okay, buddy." And a lot of fun. Now, since that time, I went out and bought the record, bought the song, the digital copy, of course. And I've practiced it, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to be ready the next time I have to do it. I love the song, and I'd heard it before, but it was a ton of fun. But yeah, that was my Morning Sky first run.
That one, I think if you listen to that one on the original tune, it's not exactly an appealing song, but man, it came out great as a singing call.
It's a great song, especially to harmonize and all that.
Oh yeah,
I think it's great. It's fantastic. If you're not listening to square dance music, what are you listening to?
I listen to all genres, so probably classic rock or country or whatever's pop. I mean, if it's got a good beat and some good lyrics, I'll listen to the current pop stuff too. A lot of it doesn't have like a standard musical framework to it, you know, where it has regular verses and hook. The hooks are all over the place in the new music, and they bridge and do everything else that they didn't do in previous generations of music. So it has to be somewhat standard, I think, for me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, and do you go to? Have you been? You probably don't do a whole lot now. You might. Some people still do. Have you been to a lot of concerts, music concerts, rock concerts?
Yeah.
What's some of your favorites? Do you remember either from childhood or the last one you went
when the Eagles got back together? Hell Freezes Over tour. We went to the very first one. It just so happened to be in Hawaii, so we got to go to the very first I don't know what you call it when they get back together. When they got back together, so that was a great one, and we've seen them since. Before was it Glenn Fry that passed away?
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, right before he passed away, we got to see him again here in Dallas. So it's kind of a bookend there. Let's see. We saw Billy Strings recently. What a great act, man. If you like bluegrass, even if you don't like bluegrass, listen to him. He's made it popular. He's made it energetic. It's just it's always energetic, but he's made the music just pop for me. I really enjoy it. I don't know. There's probably a dozen other. I know. Tony always talks about the Doobie Brothers, but we've seen them probably half a dozen times ourselves. We actually saw them.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we've seen, maybe not as many times as he sees them anytime he can, but we've seen them a lot. We like them. Saw Aerosmith, saw ZZ Top. Just I guess we do see quite a bit of rock bands. Seen George Strait a couple of times.
Yeah,
Garth Brooks. Yeah, so we do a lot. We do see a lot of concerts.
I'd love to see George Strait in concert. Probably never get the opportunity at this point. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah,
used to really like classic artists too. Like George Jones used to tour Texas a lot, and we would catch him as much as we possibly could. He actually still, after about 3 or 4 songs, he warmed up. He was just as good as he ever was, surprising enough. And Merle Haggard was excellent in concert until almost maybe 6 months before he died. We saw him, and he was outstanding as well. So really good.
Hey, growing up, I didn't in Savannah where I grew up. We didn't get a whole lot of concerts at that level,
Mhm.
so I didn't get to see a whole lot of that. I didn't start really going to see concerts until I was out of high school or very close to it. Um, since that time, I've seen Alan Jackson. Love Alan Jackson. I've
Oh
seen
yeah.
when he came through Savannah. Saw Aerosmith in Atlanta. I've seen Metallica 4 times because Metallica's top. I would love to see the Scorpions. They're in Las Vegas, and I just can't convince her to go to Las Vegas so I can see the Scorpions.
You don't want to go right now. I'll tell you, it's hot.
No, no, but hopefully at some point before the Scorpions fold, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh yeah. I guess we have seen Metallica and what was oh did Welcome to the Jungle, all the
Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses. Yeah, we just saw them.
Yes.
I think the last couple, like 2 years ago, they had a kind of resurgence. Both Metallica and Guns N' Roses toured here, so we kind of saw them. They're great too.
When we were talking earlier, you said that you can't remember a lot of names of movies and all that, but if you're just passing through and I told you that we got rid of cable and we have all the apps and everything else. If there's something on TV, movie or TV show that you're going to stop doing whatever you're doing and watch it, what is it?
Frasier. I watch Frasier. I'm watching it, rewatching it again right now. Actually,
My wife just finished it from beginning to end again about a month ago. Frasier.
Yeah, I've probably seen it 3 times fully the way through. Uh, Occasionally, I don't know if I'll stop every time, but Seinfeld will almost always catch me. If it's one of those really good episodes, I'll watch the heck out of them. I just can't get enough of Elaine dancing.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody can though. That one's just hilarious from beginning to end too. Uh, I think movies, I like. I know I like oldies, Forrest Gump, something with a real story, something like that. Oh, Oppenheimer was outstanding. I've seen that one a few times already.
Seen that yet? Yep. I'm aware
You
of
haven't seen it? I think it's playing on HBO too, on HBO Max. If you get a chance to, since you have all the streaming channels, I think we could say,
I'm sure I could find it for $3.99, but it's I
yeah.
can find it. Oh my goodness. Now, have you do you have any advice for other callers since you're in the middle of it right now with the caller schools under your belt and everything else for like up and coming or people that have been calling? Any advice that you want to pass on?
I guess my only advice would be to brand new callers, and it's to, yeah, I think learn that standard choreography, learn some really good modules, learn a lot of them and know them inside out and be able to kind of edit them on the fly where you can interject, find a place where you can put some zero in there and get them back to the same formation and then continue on with it. I found that to be very successful for me. And I think the dancers have a better time. So if you're interested in the dancers having a good time, which I think all of us really want the dancers to be successful, learn standard choreography inside out and edit it. Try to find a way to interject something interesting into a module you already know. I think even callers that have done this for a long time, they may not realize that that's what they're doing, but I think a lot of them are doing modules or memorized choreography that they've edited for all intents and purposes. Yeah. That's where I'd go with that. That would have been the best advice anybody could have given me probably 4 years ago. And I wish I had that.
That's really good. And I ask a lot of people too. I didn't ask you early on, but if there was something you could change in the early part of your calling, what would it be? And that's really good stuff there. Mine was I did singing calls for like 3 years before I ever even got near choreography. I wish I could go back and after about 6 months of singing calls, just start hitting choreography. That way I'd be 3 years ahead of where I'm at right now. So that's good stuff, David. Very nice. Now, what do you have coming up? Are you got any conventions or anything like that? What do you got going
on? No conventions anytime soon. I mean, we always do the state conventions, and we do the caller. It's called Callers Cavalcade. So we have an organization in the DFW Metroplex called NTCA, North Texas Callers Association.
Nice. Okay.
And our regional convention is called darn it, what's it called? It's our fall festival for our dancers.
All right.
Basically a convention, and all the local callers who sign up, who want to donate their time, will be able to call on Friday night there, and then Saturday is the featured caller. So we have that coming up in October. Jan normally cues at Paris, but she had another dance this year. So we're going up there to dance on Labor Day weekend.
Okay.
It's called...
Love to get the Paris dance at some point. I see it on Facebook and everything. I've just not had a chance, the opportunity to go up there. So.
Yeah, and she'll be there next year. She'll be the cuer there again next year. The cuers that are there this year are very good. The airs, we really enjoy them too. But we go for the square dancing predominantly when we go as dancers. Then on New Year's Eve, Jan will be cueing in Memphis. So come on out to Memphis on New Year's Eve.
I'm gonna have to talk to my wife about that.
Yeah.
Where in particular, I mean, is it a club or is it just a New Year's Eve dance?
It's a New Year's Eve. It's a New Year's Eve dance. I think Travis is calling.
Travis Cook? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that. Because Travis,
I'm not speaking on that. I'm almost positive it's Travis though.
Yeah, he's here in Atlanta on, I think, like December 26th, the day after Christmas. He's at Hotlanta, about 12 miles south of me. And I just saw it on the schedule, and I'd love to get over there for that. And I guess he's going to come back through Memphis. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. We went to the one in Alabama. So my mom lives in Maryland still.
Okay.
And on our way back, we decided we would catch, it's kind of a halfway point. So we were driving to Maryland from Texas, or reverse from Maryland, back to Texas, and stopped in Atlanta to go to that New Year's Eve. That was a lot of fun too. That was last New Year's Eve. So went to that.
So make a plan if you can, depending on work and everything. Caller Lab in South Carolina is just going to be next level, being it's the 50th and all that. And plus, I get to see you if you come over there for that. Definitely, I'm going to the Nationals next year in Shreveport. I'm looking forward to that. I've never spent any time in that. You're going to be there? Okay.
Yeah.
How far is that? I mean, I'm terrible with distances. Where is that from to where you are?
Shreveport is right at about 3 hours from Dallas. So it's a nice, easy drive for us. We'll be there. And Waco's less. I think Waco might be 2.5.
Wow. Okay.
So the next two are really easy for us. We're looking forward to it.
Okay.
In fact, the next three, because I think if the next one's in Colorado, right?
Yeah, Colorado. I'm looking forward to that because I've never had reason to go to Colorado, and I've always wanted to. So I'm certainly looking forward to that. And Waco, although I say I love Texas, I've been there twice. But I really want to spend more time. I've been to Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, and a couple other, Wichita Falls. Um, that is a little town. That's the first time I've ever had the stairs rolled out to me at the plane that I was getting off of, and I was like, "Are
Oh,
you?"
really?
Yeah, I was like, "Is it? Do they really still do this?" Yeah, it was a Delta flight. We flew into Dallas. My son was in the Air Force, and he was in Wichita Falls for his tech school. So we flew out to Dallas, and then we got the little connector, the smaller plane to Wichita Falls to see him. And when we landed, and I was like, where are we? And then they rolled the stairs out, and I'm like, are you serious? They still do this at airports?
They do.
They did. And, the other thing is when you walk in the back door of the airport, you can see the front door. You pick up your bag and you walk out 10 feet later, you're out the front door. I was like, good gosh.
It's funny you say that. I've done that in Augusta, Georgia.
Okay.
Exactly the same. I think the airport there's not that big.
Is that right? Yep.
Yeah,
I was flown into Augusta, but we were talking earlier. Just yesterday, I had to go get my wife from the airport here in Atlanta, and Hartsfield-Jackson is gigantic. So much traffic, so many people. Easy to navigate, but when we fly into somewhere else, whether it be for a cruise or vacation or whatever, and it's a small airport, even Miami's a big airport, but I fly in there and I'm like, well, this place is tiny because I'm coming from Hartsfield. So Wichita Falls was a slap in reality. I was like, wow, this was like Wings, the TV show. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it kind of is, man. That place is tiny. But I think that's not quite West Texas, but that's West Texas for you. It's pretty close. But
David, it's been awesome catching up with you, bud.
But it was great going to Pride RV Resort.
Yes, I wanted to mention that we both just about 3 weeks ago, we were at Pride RV at the Caller School with Tony and Jack, and again, just like every other school I've taken with Tony, this first one I've had other than GSI with Jack. I got a lot out of it. It's a ton of fun. And I tell everybody when I talk about that stuff, the setting, the venue at Pride RV is like nothing else I've ever been to. Got a great little campground there, and we stayed in the little apartments they have. I know they have the trailers and the cabins and everything else, but with the dance hall they have, I mean, everybody, if you want to go somewhere, even if it's not a Caller School, just go for one of their dance weeks. I'm leaving. I can't go for the whole week. I'm leaving Wednesday morning to go up for the second half of their DVD week that they have right now.
Are you?
Okay. And I'm really just going to listen to them calling it because I want to learn more about DVD because I don't know a ton about it. I can dance it, but I wouldn't even venture to try and call it right now. So I'm looking forward to that. And then we leave out of there on Friday. I'll come back through here, pick up my wife, and we're going to Alabama for the Alabama State Convention this weekend. So it's a little bit busy, but yeah, Pride RV.
I said hi.
I absolutely will.
Yeah.
Speaking of Pride, what was one of your takeaways from the Pride School?
I think just having that much individualized attention for that long, to have that few of a caller and have Jack Plattis and Tony Oxendine evaluate you is unbelievably valuable for a caller. I think it was just the best thing to me. Was individualized attention that you don't get in any other caller school, I don't think.
I had talked to Jack. He was my exit interview when I got done with my patter that I did at the dance, and he told me, he said we had talked about I think it was 12 of us. Was it 12 or 10? Mm-hmm. He said we had talked about going up to 14. He said we're probably just going to keep it at 12 because of that. The individual attention you get. It's just fantastic. And that's the other place. I've been to caller schools where they can't get a whole lot of dancers to come out. So, and I don't like doing it. I will when they need it. I don't want to go to a caller school and have to dance the whole time. I don't mind doing it if they need a dancer, somebody to get up and dance at the park. But, I want to sit there and write stuff and listen to and see stuff. So, but yeah, Tony, he's got those local dancers that come out. And so you get to actually call. Now, we did dance a lot.
Yeah.
You didn't have to because he always.
Every once in a while you want to wake up.
Yeah.
You hear the same kind of critiques over and over again sometimes, and you kind of just want to, I got to get my head back in the game a little bit. It helps to listen a little bit too.
Yeah, and I was telling Jack that too. I said, I get as much out of listening to them critique you or critique, Tony Simmons or whoever. And when they say something like, "Well, your timing's off on this," I'm like, "Oh my God, so is mine." I can hear when they say it to somebody else. I'm like, that's the same thing as me sometimes, depending on what it is. So yeah, that's awesome. Well, and I tell everybody too, because I've talked to some dudes, like I say, in Georgia that have been calling for 20, 30 years, whatever. And I mentioned a caller school, and they're like, I'm not going to go to a caller school. I'm like, why not? I mean, in pretty much any job in the world, the job that I'm still doing right now before, I shut it all down, I still have to go for at least 30 hours a year just for in-service training. And that's the minimum. They want you to do more. And that's just for that, so why not go to a caller school? Even if you've got 20 years under your belt, 30 years, plus I get to see people that I don't normally get to see. I mean, it was a bonus when I saw you there. I think Victoria told me you were coming, and so I was looking forward to that because we had talked prior to going. So, but that's awesome.
Be there next year.
What's that?
She told me she'll be there next year.
Yeah. I called her, I think the last night. I'm like, look, you have got to come to this thing. Because again, the setting is unequaled. I mean, you can go to other good caller schools. You really can, with other people involved. But that Pride setup, everybody, whether it be a dancer or a caller, needs to at least go there and experience it. It is so much fun. It's such a great place. You got that creek back there. I went back there 2 days and just laid in the creek in the morning doing my little polar plunge or whatever. It's awesome. Yeah. It's a great time.
Really, really wonderful. Well, thanks for interviewing me, Charlie.
David, man,
you're great at what you do. Really, I've seen a few in these. You're just getting better and better all the time.
Well, man, I appreciate it. Good. It's a lot of fun to get to talk to you. Like I say, we bump into each other at a convention or something, but doing this, I get to talk to you some more. So I want to do it again, and I tell everybody, another year or so, I'd like to talk to you about what you did this past year. Matter of fact, after Caller Lab, if you can go to that, let's talk about what we did at Caller Lab. So we'll do it again in 8-10 months, whatever. So, David, it's been my pleasure, brother. Hopefully I will see you somewhere down the road, whether it be a convention or Caller Lab or maybe the Tennessee convention next year if you can get over there. I'm planning on going next year. In Memphis. I'm going to try and get to Memphis too, and that's on New Year's Eve with Travis Cook.
Yeah. Hope y'all can make it.
Absolutely. I'll go talk to her in just a second. David, it's been my pleasure, brother, and I will hopefully see you down the road somewhere.
My pleasure too. Thank you very much.
Take it easy, buddy. We'll see you.
You got to dodge, you got to duck 'em, you got to keep that diesel trucking, put that hammer down and let 'em roll, circle it, eastbound and down, honey, loaded up and trucking, we're gonna do what they say can't be done. You do a left out of man, come on home and do a side door, those men start left one time you run, we'll turn the partridge by the right hand, then you go left out of man, swing your own and promenade. Short time to get there. Eastbound and just watching bandit run. I said we're eastbound and just watching bandit